Hello everybody, Beth's Golden here. Today I'm going to try to shoot this video at my desk, but I do not have my overhead light on because the glare can get pretty intense on this glass craft mat, and I need to use this in the video, so hopefully it's not too dark in your parts on your screen right now. I'm sitting in a natural lit room and a couple lights off to the side on. I hope you can see. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you about the Hedgehog Hallow March box. This was the second box that they released, and I had some fun playing with it and creating some cards. I wanted to share with you the cards that I've made so far, as well as a couple things I learned and tips that I've picked up I think will be beneficial for you. You don't have to have the box to benefit from the tips. However, if you do, that's cool. You can follow along and use the supplies in the box, because most everything I'm using is either Copic markers, which are not in the box, or things found in the box. So anyway, moving on. I created, one of the things that I liked about the Hedgehog Hallow box is that she does a beautiful tutorial on Copic markers. It's an hour long, so it is intense. However, it's extremely useful. I have a very short attention span when I watch things, and I like them to be short, to the point, and precise. I don't like to waste a lot of time. So everything in it is totally useful. So I learned a few things. I'm not going to go over with you the things, the techniques I picked up in that tutorial, because you can go over and order the box, and she'll send you the links for it. But I am going to go over some things that I learned in general about Copic markers in the process. She also has another 3 tutorials that go along with the box that were very beneficial. I would buy the box just for the tutorials. She does a beautiful job. It's concise. It makes sense. It's wonderful. So from those tutorials, I actually ended up creating 4 cards with my Copic markers, and these are my 4 cards. I'll hold them up one at a time. This is the one that I did first, and as you can see, they say that the owners start to look like their pets. So I tried to make my pet's fur in the same color family as my owner's hair. And I am naming my dog DOG. I've always wanted to have a dog named DOG, and if I ever was a cat person, I swear I would get a cat just to name it CAT. So go figure. So this is DOG, and this is little Minnie. She already has a name, and this was the first card that I created using the Copic markers. This is the second one. I was super excited to try this technique with black hair. I had a lot of fun with it. It's not my favorite card, but it's still pretty cute. I like it a lot. This is my next one, little redhead. This one's super cute. I like this one. And then, as you can see on the last 2, I actually took the little die cuts and stamps, the bones and the bows, and I used them as an embellishment off to the side. I did Woof You with the little bones, and then this one I wanted a pink card predominantly, so I did her in shades of pink with a pink little doggy, kind of silly, goofy, random. And then I did, since this is such a girly card and pink is there, I did the pink little bows. So I'm going to show you and talk to you a little bit as I make some cards today on hybrid ink pads and some tips with Copics that I learned. But before I do that, let me show you the other 3 cards. The first thing I actually did do from her tutorial, this is a beautiful card. It's bittersweet. I had to make a card for sympathy for someone, and if I talk about it too much, I might cry. So this is what one of the tutorials created, was this beautiful envelope with the vellum, and it looks like stained glass. And if I put it up real close, you can kind of see Minnie through there, but I'm going to open it up for you. And this just has a glue dot that's been smooshed together in my fingers so it can reseal and seal and it doesn't stick too badly. And then here's sweet little Minnie. And she's blue because she's sad. One of the things that I learned in the process is this piece down here is really tedious. If you are not using this as a true envelope for a gift card or note tag, go ahead and just trim that off because it doesn't look good sitting over the top and it gets in the way because the cardstock, this beautiful cardstock as well as this vellum is super bulky together and it just gets in the way. So you'll notice on the next two cards that I created with this technique, or one of them entirely with this technique, I just trimmed off the bottom and it looks a whole lot smoother. For the background on this, I just used some Tim Holtz Distressed Oxides in Peacock, Weathered Jeans, and Salty Ocean. And then I just made her blue because she's sad. Sometimes in life we go through hard things and we always need to look at the positive side, but you got to give yourself a minute to embrace those negative things. And that's hopefully what this card conveys to the individual I'm sending it to. So once I created this, I thought, this delicate die would be awesome with Rainier foil paper. So the next one I created was with Rainier foil paper, and I'll have the link down below. It's with the blush. This is not intended to be opened. I have him on pop dots, and then this is sealed right here, the little bow. But if you look close, I don't know if you can tell, you can kind of see a gold heart, delicate little heart in there that's been also part of the envelope die set that comes with the Hedgehog kit. So that's what I did with this one. Then I decided to, when I cut this, I always cut out more than one foil piece at a time. It just cuts better and I can, you know, kill two birds with one stone. Then from here, I decided to open up the envelope and use it almost like a window and created this one. So there's no sentiment on this one. I usually do sentiments on the front, but sometimes I don't. This one's a lot of fun. This would be fun on a tag. But again, I die cut this out, didn't use any vellum. I took a pencil and I just kind of rolled it under to keep the shape of that. And then there is that beautiful heart again. And then I went ahead and did Minnie up, kind of a fiery strawberry blondie redhead. I really like how that one turned out. I like how they all turned out, really. So I'm going to go ahead and create a card with you with some of the stuff I have left in the kit, talk to you about some things that I learned. Hopefully this will benefit you as well. The first thing I have is my card base is a funky shape. Usually a typical card base is 4.25 by 5.5. Mine is actually 5.5 by 4. I like to mat my cards with usually 2, as you can see here, 2 mats. However, sometimes I'll do 1 like I did here. So for this card, I have selected these sheets of paper to go with what I want to do. And these are all from the kit. And this is going to be my base. And I need that like jade color because I'm going to be using this for something. Hopefully it works. So this is going to be my base. I'm going to make a banner piece out of this. This is going to be a little circle that I'm going to place little Minnie on. And then these are going to be to mat my sentiment. In this piece, I am going to go ahead and just use Minnie. I'm not going to use this sweet little dog, D-O-G. So, but I want a sentiment. It's kind of hard to think about a sentiment when all of it is dog related, right? So I'm going to use Fabulous. Have a fabulous day. And I'll show you how I'm going to do that in a moment. I am going to use the bow for her hair. And I even am going to do something with a little flower A lot of people have been doing bows in the hair. I actually like the little flower in the hair. So we'll see if I do the flower or the bow, but I'm going to do them both up. So the first thing I want to do is I want to start to work on my stamped image. So for that, I'm going to pull out my platform, my Tim Holtz platform. I'm going to make sure that I'm using it on the clear side right here as it's stated. If I was using it on the rubber, just pull it up at a 90-degree angle, flip it over like so, and boom, there we go. But for these, we're on the clear side. I'm using the cardstock from the kit, and I'm just going to smash this into the corner like so. This wonderful little tip of your wrapping your magnets with washi tape came from the Hedgehog Hallow. She saw a video and she's like, you know, if you wrap those, they wouldn't cling together so hard and they're easier to lift. So I was like, oh, that's fabulous. The first thing I'm going to lay down is a little Miss Minnie, and I'm going to put her off to the side. I'm going to stamp her in black, and then I'm going to emboss her. These are the inks from the kit. They are hybrid ink, which means that once they're dry, they're waterproof, so you can use your watercolor brushes with them, and they're also alcohol ink proof, which is great because we are using, sorry for the loud bang, Copics with ours. However, I'm also, if you want to color on them right away, it's important that you emboss them, which is very cool about hybrid inks because you can, they're not so quick to dry that you can't emboss them like say StazOn or a Memento. But if you want to emboss them, you know, you can do that. But if you want them to be able to hold color with Copic and not be embossed, that's cool too. You just have to wait for it to dry or heat set it for a few minutes. And if you want to wait for it to dry and not emboss it, I would say 10 minutes. But I'm going to go ahead and emboss it, not so much because I'm worried about leak through, but I don't color in the lines, and by embossing my image, that does allow me to have better guide, and I don't get the ink everywhere. So I'm going to go ahead and emboss this image first. I am using the embossing powder. It is that came in the kit. It is by Little Darling Rubber Stamps. And I know that I have a good coverage on this when it looks kind of matte. I don't know if you can tell that. So I'm going to go ahead and heat set this. Okay, so I have the clear embossing powder in my kit, which I absolutely love. I prefer clear over anything else because you can lay down a base of any kind of ink and it'll emboss in that color. Whereas if you cover it up with a black, it's going to all emboss black no matter what your ink is. So I always like the clear. Though I do have some beautiful metallics. I'm just cleaning off my stamp. I'm going to go ahead and put this back on my pad. And then I'm going to stamp my next two images. I think I can do these pretty much together. Sometimes when you work on the platform, the stamps are not at the same height, and so you might not get a crisp image, so we'll see how this works. I'm going to go ahead and just place my magnet over here on the corner. And I have 4 magnets. I bought an extra one. And I want to do my bow, so I always lay it out first on my paper. Make sure my stamp is clean. She does have a tip if your stamps are dirty, Hedgehog Hallow, on these tutorials, that you can go over and see her tip for that. It's very helpful. But these are pretty clean. And if you do lay them down and they're a bit dirty, it's not the end of the world. Since you are using a stamp press, it'll be just fine. I am going to stamp I want to do her up, I think, I want to do a green bow. Actually, we're going to go crazy. We're just going to do them both in this beautiful key lime pie. And I'm going to stamp this several times because I'm going to do some shading with this ink. I'm going to use it as paint. So I really need this image to be nice and crisp and dark. And then I'm going to go ahead and emboss this as well. So I'm going to stamp this 3 times. I'm resting it on my cuddle bug. It's back there. And I'm a kneader. I rub, knead, whatever to get the image crisp. All right, so here's this one. I'm going to go ahead and just pick up some of this beautiful embossing powder. And it goes matte. I know it's ready. I'm going to go ahead and set this up. Okay, so I'm going to also stamp my sentiment on this as well. And we already know that I want to have a fabulous day, so I'm going to have to leave the furry off of the sentiment. And that's so easy. All I have to do is just stamp the words I want, ink up the words I want, and leave the ones I don't want alone. I believe I'm done with my stamp platform. So I can go ahead and set that off to the side, and we'll get started on coloring in these images. See, like what I just did there? That was stupid. But the washi tape tabs sure make it easier. I want to go ahead and start to color this in. And I am going to use my Copics to color in her skin tone and her hair. However, I'm going to use this to color in the bow and the flower, as well as her dress and shoes. I'm going to use this part of my Tim Holtz Tonic Studios glass mat. This is a really nice craft mat that adheres to this portion of the glass mat. So I work on black with a grid, and I also have white. These are 1-inch cubes, so it's perfect for working with your 1-inch cubes. If you want to paint or do whatever I'm doing, it cleans up nicely. I could do this technique on this and it would work just fine. However, I really like it better on this. It tends to bleed better than it does. It like pools nicely up here. So I'm going to pick up a paintbrush, and I'm just going to take this. This is a hybrid ink, so this would work with water, or if you wanted to dab some alcohol on it, that would be pretty awesome too. And I'm just going to tap it right like so. 1 tap, that's all I'm going to need for now. If I want, I can add more later. And I'm going to spritz it with some water. And then I'm just going to go in to my images, and I'm going to paint. The reason why I stamped this 3 times is because I really wanted the lines to show. If you only do it once, there's a chance that as you paint it in, it will disguise or cover up those lines. And I really wanted those lines to show. So this is just a beautiful, fun technique that you can use with your ink pads to paint with. I don't know how much I had left. I only needed that little bit. So it really only does take 1 stamp of the pad. And then it just wipes up nicely because it's glass. Don't do this on paper. If you do this on paper, your paper's going to suck it up because it's porous and you won't be able to paint with it. So now her dress is done and her shoes are done. We're going to go ahead and get into the Copic markers from here and color in her hair and her body. I highly recommend heading on over to Hedgehog Hallow and checking out those tutorials. If you got this kit, she gives beautiful really great tutorial on Copics. I'm going to share some techniques with you that I have learned in the process and elsewhere. The first thing I want to color in though is her skin. And for her skin, I'm going to be using these three colors, E01, E02, and E11. What I like about Copics is you have to shade in threes, but they make it super easy with the number system as well as the letter. E means earth, and then these are from E01 is the lightest, E11 is the darkest. That's what that means. So I'm going to share with you a tip right now that I learned recently, and that is this. When I first started coloring with Copics 9 years ago, and this is the reason why I feel like I'm still such a beginner and novice at this, is because of this marker. It's called the Colorless Blender. This is the most misnamed marker ever. This is not a blender. This is an eraser or a color eliminator. It's still necessary. You still need it. I'm a sloppy colorer, and you can push the color back into the image by using this, and it works beautifully. This also is great on this image, for example, in creating fur. I colored him in like I'm going to color in the skin right now, and then I went over the top of him with both ends actually and just dabbed this around, and it lifted some of that color in splotchy places and gave him a very cool effect. So it also, they could call this the highlighter too, because if you have something that's dark, for example, her hair, and let's say that I want to remove some of the color from her hair. Let me find this one, for example. So let's say that I want to put a streak in and I want to remove some of the color from her hair and bring out the highlight. All I have to do is just take this Copic and just go down, and it removes that color in that spot. Do you see how it just did that? Totally just removed the color in that spot. So this is not a blender. Don't look at this like a blender. This is definitely a color eliminator. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't blend, because you can, and I'm going to show you how in a moment. All right, so I'm going to be coloring on just a regular piece of printer paper that I've been coloring on, because this is going to get super wet, and I don't want it to absorb back into my paper because I'm working on a glass mat. The first thing you have to do is you have to lay down your lightest color. So I'm going to go ahead and just lay down my lightest color now. And one of the things that Hedgehog did say was to take the cap off of both ends, because it will allow equalized pressure in your alcohol marker, which I have found to be true. I was working on an image that was red with red lipstick, and all of a sudden I was at the very end and I got a big old pool of the image of the red on my image, and it totally ruined it. Had I taken off the both ends, it would have been fine. So I'm just going to go in and color in her little legs. I'm only going to do 2 colors on her limbs, and I'm going to do 3 colors on her face. I can tell if I have good coverage on this, because I want a good foundation if I flip it over, and if all of it, if you can see the outline and the shading of her face back here. And I need to fill in a little bit more. I've noticed that my first layer on all of my images requires 2 applications. It just provides a nice base, and it will allow for more blendability. You're going to be using this pen, your base color, more than any other pen through this process. Okay, if she is streaky, it is okay. Just keep going over her. All right, so from here, I'm going to go ahead and add my second color. My second color, I'm going to only apply towards the outside of her face and where some shadowing is. I'm not going to be too precise with it at this point, because it is just the second layer of color, but I don't want it in everywhere. Just kind of. And since this is a embossed image, believe it or not, I actually am doing a better job at keeping it within the lines. I'm a really sloppy colorist, and I'm a novice at this. Everything that I am telling you is stuff that I just learned as I played all day yesterday with the Copic markers. And this is such a wonderful skill to have in your arsenal as an artist, because I can't think of a time when I didn't need to shade an image, and it's not like my favorite thing to do either. So from here, I'm going to go and do the last and final, and this is just basically shadowing. And if you want to know where to shadow, just do it right along the image lines. That is your best and safest bet, is if you go right up along those image lines. And she is looking a little bit streaky, but that's okay. I'm going to tell you how we fix that in a moment. I did get some in her hair, but I don't care, because I'm going to cover it up when I do her hair next. And I'm going to apply the same type principles that I did to her face on her hair. So I am going to color in that side of her face a little bit more. And I'm just taking it down. If you wanted to do some blush, like some little, that might be cute. Maybe I should add a little bit of blush to her before I set her up completely. Okay, so I'm going to do Rosebud, and I'm just going to add a little bit of color to her cheeks. And you're like, holy cow, that looks horrible. That's way too strong. And you're right, it is. But all I have to do is I'm just going to take this second color that I used, and I'm just going to kind of go over it a little bit and see how that just smooths it right on out. Look at that. Isn't that cool? So your blenders are actually your markers. That thing, this thing right here called colorless blender, that's not a colorless blender. Your markers are your blenders. They blend together, not your colorless blender. That's a color eliminator. And I think that that for me has been my frustration with Copic markers. Really, it's because I've been trying to blend and I've been using this and it doesn't work, and I couldn't figure out why. Well, it's because it's a color eraser. Now to blend it all together, I go back to my E01, which is my lightest shade, and I'm just going to lay down another layer of this color. And this is what blends all of that together. See, there she is. Her face is done, in my opinion. Now I am going to go through and take my E02 and just add a little bit to her arms and a little bit to her legs. But I'm not doing much. I mean, they're tiny, but just enough. All right. So from here, we're going to go ahead and do the same process for her hair. Now, if I got any of this color outside of the lines, which I'll probably do on her hair, all you do is you take your in like this and you actually push it back into the image. I did learn that 9 years ago. Why I thought that I could blend with it, I don't know. Maybe because it's called the blender, but it's not a blender. So for this, I'm going to make her a blonde. I'm going to use Y11, Y13, and Y19. Again, I'm starting off with my Y11, and I'm just going to, now I'm still practicing. I'm still learning how to do this all. This is still a relative new way for me. I have to tell you though, now that I've gotten some pointers and have watched a couple tutorials on it, as well as practicing, I have learned quite a bit, I think, about Copic, just enough to make it so I can get by. That's all I'm going for here. I don't think I'm ever going to be a fantastic colorist, just because I don't really have the patience for it, I don't think. But I don't know. It was pretty fun yesterday. I had a lot of fun with that. Making my pets look like their owners or vice versa. All right, so I have the first layer down. I'm going to go ahead and just add a second layer just to get this pretty good coverage. This is wet. The alcohol ink does stay wet for a bit, and that's why you want to have a pretty strong first coverage, just because you want to make sure that when you lay down your other colors, they are going on a little bit wet. I do have another set of alcohol inks that are by Style File that I really, really like, and those are super duper wet. So when I did this technique on my dogs, I don't know if you guys noticed on some of my DOGs over there, I used the Style File markers, and it bled because I was still, with the Copic, you have to lay it down twice. With Style File, once and you're good. All right, so that's been colored. I'm going to do Y13, and I'm always going to start up here for these next colors in the roots and just follow down these lines, because this is, and I always like that piece to be darker. This is where you naturally would see some light. And so I'm just following the artist's image that she created here with this, and just kind of going with that natural shading. See, I made a mess right there. That's okay, I'll clean it up. I am not one that can sit there and predict how the light is going to hit someone. I'm horrible at that. So I am just adding in this like so. All right, and now I'm going to go over to Y19, which is the Napoleon Yellow. And then if you wanted to like make her a little bit of a gorgeous strawberry blonde, or, you know, fiery redhead, as my daughter liked to call her, you can throw in some orange after this. That's what I did on the other image that made her a fiery redhead. Let's see if I can't find her. Here she is. I did the same technique and then added in orange at the end, and that's what I got. Okay, I hope my hand isn't in the way. I'm a lefty. So I'm just taking that down there and pulling it through. I'm going over 2 times on some areas, and then right here, down through here. And then I want to make sure that just around her face is a little bit darker, because again, here's that line. I want to follow that line. If you follow all of the lines when you're shadowing, I think that that's passable. I'm sure that there are those out there that can give more detail on that, but that's too much info for my self. All right, so from here, I want to go ahead and blend it. So I'm going to go back to my base color, which was my Y11. This was my lightest color. And I'm just going to go on through and just throw some color down right all over that. And you don't have to worry about this corrupting your Copics. I've been doing this technique and I haven't had any color transfer issues. And see, you can already tell how much better blended that is just by using this than how this was on its own. See how we have that hard line still there? And how up here there's no hard lines? So watch this. So we're going to go ahead and blend this out. And there she is. She's cute, right? And you guys, I've only been really doing this technique for a day. It's not hard. It's not hard at all. I'm such a novice and I'm still learning, and there's so much more that I can learn. If you guys have any tips or techniques that you do regarding Copic or any of this, I would love for you to share them in the comments below, because I really value that. I think that I can learn a lot from other crafters and creators and people. So now I'm going to go ahead and just trim out my title, and We're going to die cut her out with the die cuts that were in the kit. I'm going to go ahead and ink the edges of this, and I'm having to ink the edges as I go simply because I'm matting this. Now, if you want those stitching, if you have dies that have stitching in them, you can tell the mock stitching on that, along the edges. If you color into it with your stamp pad, as you ink the edges, it'll actually bring the stitching out, which is kind of fun to do. Okay, so everything is colored and we are ready to finally assemble our card. All right, I don't think I'm done yet. I want to add a couple little drops. I love this stuff. It's like enamel drops and it dries with the same shape that you put it down with. It is so awesome. Okay, I think that I am done with this adorable little card. Again, if you are interested in the banner die cut, please visit my links below. I'll have that at the top. And if you're interested in this craft mat, this also came from Tonic Studios. So I have the affiliated link for that as well down below. Again, if you guys could shop those affiliated links, I would really appreciate it. It helps me out. It doesn't cost you guys anything. And sometimes I even have coupon codes for my viewers that are listed down below, so you can get a little bit of a discount as well. All right, if you're interested in this kit, again, it's through the Hedgehog Hallow. Go ahead and find her on YouTube. She also has Instagram. So go ahead and look her up. She has really, really fantastic tutorials in general that are not about subscription related, but the tutorials that came with this little box were absolutely fantastic. I would highly recommend the box just for the tutorials. If you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do so. Make sure you hit that little bell so you can get notifications on when I have something coming out. And if you have any questions or comments or suggestions on how you use Copic markers, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. Make sure you give this a thumbs up, and I'd really appreciate it if you shared it. Until next time, happy crafting!